Step away from the register, Simone. Now. Gregory Walsh did not raise his voice, but the words cut cleanly through the lunch rush at Maple Street Grill. Simone Harris froze with one hand resting beside the receipt printer. Around her, forks touched plates, glasses filled with ice, and conversations continued beneath the soft hum of the restaurant. Yet for one strange second, Simone heard almost none of it. Gregory stood 6 feet away, his expression tight, a printed check held between 2 fingers. What happened? Simone asked. That is what I am trying to determine. His eyes moved from the receipt to her face. The woman at table 14. Her card was declined, but the check was closed anyway. Simone felt Maya Collins stop behind her with a tray balanced against one hip. I paid it, Simone said. Gregory's eyebrows tightened. You paid her bill? Yes. After her card failed? Yes. Simone could already hear something changing in his questions. He was no longer asking what happened. He was building toward what he believed had happened. Gregory lowered his voice. And she was having trouble communicating with you? Simone stared at him. She is deaf. I know that. Then why are you saying it like that matters? Gregory glanced toward the dining room. I need you away from the register until I understand this transaction. Heat climbed into Simone's face. 2 servers had begun pretending not to listen. A customer near the counter looked down at his coffee. Simone swallowed the first response that came to her. You could ask me what happened. I am asking. No, she said quietly. You are asking why you should believe me. Gregory's jaw shifted. Step away from the register. Simone did. She moved slowly, keeping her hands visible at her sides, not because she had done anything wrong, but because suddenly every movement felt as if it might be interpreted for her. 20 minutes earlier, nothing about the afternoon had seemed important enough to remember. The restaurant sat along a busy stretch of Charlotte, not far from the hospital district, and lunch had arrived all at once. Nurses and scrubs filled 2 booths. Office workers crowded the counter. Simone had been carrying 3 iced teas toward table 12 when she noticed the older woman sitting alone at table 14. The woman had silver hair tucked neatly behind her ears and a pale blue coat folded beside her. A hospital discharge envelope rested near her purse. Simone had served her soup, half a turkey sandwich, and hot tea. The woman had smiled often but spoken very little. When Simone asked whether she wanted more tea, the woman pointed gently toward her ear, then shook her head. Simone understood. She stopped talking louder, something she had seen people do with deaf customers before, and instead opened the notes screen on the restaurant tablet. More tea, she typed. The woman's face brightened. She typed back. Yes, please. Thank you for asking this way. Her name, Simone later learned, was Linda Bennett. When lunch ended, Linda placed a credit card on the check. Simone ran it once. Declined. She tried again after Linda nodded. Declined. Linda looked at the screen, then at Simone, embarrassment spreading across her face. She opened her phone and typed quickly. I left another card at home. I thought this one was working. I am sorry. Simone read the message and glanced at the total. $19.43. Linda began gathering her purse as if preparing to explain herself to someone with more authority. Simone thought about the folded cash in her apron pocket, tips from the morning shift. She also thought about the community college textbook she still needed and the electric bill waiting on the kitchen counter at home. Then Linda typed another message. Can I leave my information and come back? Simone looked at the older woman's tired face and the hospital envelope beside her hand. Give me 1 minute, Simone typed. She walked to the register, took $20 from her own tip money, and closed the check herself. She had no idea that Gregory would see the transaction before he saw the kindness behind it. Simone returned to table 14 with the closed receipt and placed it beside Linda's teacup. Linda looked at the paper, then at Simone, and immediately noticed the balance had been paid. Her eyebrows lifted. She reached for her phone and typed. Did the card finally work? Simone shook her head and opened the restaurant tablet. No, I covered lunch. Linda stared at the words, then looked toward the register as though she expected someone to correct what she had just read. She typed again. I can pay you back. My son can bring money. Simone smiled and shook her head. No repayment. Just get home safely. Linda read the sentence twice. Her expression softened, but Simone could see embarrassment still lingering there. Simone knew that look. It was the look people wore when they hated needing something from a stranger. She tore a clean strip from her order pad and wrote the same message by hand, adding her first name beneath it. Linda carefully folded the note instead of throwing it away. "Simone," she typed. Simone nodded. Linda touched one hand lightly to her chest, then typed, "Thank you for treating me like I could answer for myself." That sentence stayed with Simone. "You can," she typed back. Linda smiled. Before leaving, she pointed toward the hospital envelope on the table and typed that she had been at an appointment since early morning. Simone helped her place the envelope inside her purse, then watched her walk toward the front door. Maya appeared beside Simone, carrying 2 empty glasses. "Tell me you did not just pay that whole check." "It was $19.43. "That was not my question." Simone collected Linda's cup and saucer. "She was having a bad day." Maya lowered her voice. "And you are having an expensive month." Simone knew exactly what Maya meant. The $20 bill had come from the cash she kept folded separately in her apron. By Friday, she needed another $86 for the electric bill at the apartment she shared with her mother. She also needed a used anatomy textbook for the evening prerequisite course she was taking at Central Piedmont Community College. Simone was not pretending $20 meant nothing. It meant groceries. It meant 2 bus rides and coffee between work and class. It meant one more small calculation in a month already full of them. She lifted the tray. "I will make it back." Maya gave her a look. That is what generous people always say right before checking their bank account. Simone laughed despite herself. "Then I will check it tomorrow." They returned to work. For several minutes, the restaurant swallowed the moment completely. Table 9 needed ranch dressing. A nurse at the counter asked for a separate check. Someone dropped a spoon. The kitchen bell rang twice. Simone moved through it all with the practiced rhythm she had built over 11 months at Maple Street Grill. Then Gregory returned from the back office. He had spent most of lunch dealing with a produced delivery that arrived short. Simone barely noticed him until he stopped at the register and began reviewing the closed checks. "Simone," he called. She turned while carrying a pitcher of water. "Yes. Come here." Something in his tone made Maya look up. Gregory tapped Linda's receipt. "This card declined twice." "Yes." "Then the check shows cash." "Mine." Gregory looked at her apron. "Your cash." "My tip money." "Why?" Simone glanced toward the empty table where Linda had been sitting. "Because she could not pay, and I did not want her embarrassed." Gregory's face did not soften. Instead, he pulled the receipt closer. "Did she understand what you were doing?" Simone felt the question land differently from the others. "She is deaf, Gregory. She is not incapable of understanding." "That is not what I said. It is what you were suggesting." Maya stepped closer. I saw Simone take the money out of her own apron. Gregory raised one hand. "I am talking to Simone." He studied the transaction again, then looked toward the front door Linda had used minutes earlier. "So a customer who has difficulty communicating has a declined card. You handle the check yourself, and then she leaves without paying anything?" Simone's fingers tightened around the water pitcher. "She left because I paid." Gregory stared at her for a long moment. Simone suddenly understood that the $20 was no longer the important part. Somewhere between the register screen and Gregory's assumptions, her kindness had become suspicious. She set the pitcher carefully on the counter. "The receipt is right there," she said. "Maya saw everything. And I wrote Linda a note explaining exactly what I did." Gregory's eyes narrowed slightly. "You know her name?" "Because I asked." Simone held his gaze. "If you want to know what happened, ask me. But do not turn her disability into evidence against me." Gregory did not answer immediately. He turned the receipt over as though the blank side might contain something Simone had failed to explain. The lunch crowd kept moving around them, but Simone could feel a tension gathering at the edges of the counter. She had learned long ago that people rarely needed the full story before deciding which version interested them most. Gregory finally said, "I am responsible for every transaction in this restaurant." "Then review the transaction," Simone replied. "I am." "No, you are reviewing me." Maya shifted beside the drink station, her expression tightening. Gregory placed the receipt flat on the counter. "A customer's card fails twice. You close the check with cash. The customer leaves. I need to know there was no adjustment made afterward." Simone stared at him. "What adjustment?" "Discount. Void. Change to the total. Anything that could create cash somewhere else in the transaction." The meaning reached her slowly, then all at once. "You think I changed her bill and kept money?" Gregory exhaled. "I said I am checking. Linda did not give me any money." That makes the transaction harder to verify from her side. Simone felt her stomach tighten. Because she is deaf? Because communication was limited. Communication was not limited. We wrote to each other. She pointed toward the restaurant tablet near the service station. She understood every question I asked. I understood every answer she gave. Gregory looked toward the dining room, then lowered his voice. Keep this professional. Simone almost laughed at the unfairness of that instruction. She was standing still. She was speaking quietly. Gregory was the one suggesting she might have exploited an older customer, yet somehow her tone had become the thing requiring supervision. I am being professional, she said. I am also asking you to be specific. Maya stepped forward. Gregory, I watched Simone pull a $20 bill from the inside pocket of her apron. She put it with the check. Gregory looked at her. Did you watch the entire transaction? I saw enough to know it was her money. That is not what I asked. Simone reached into her apron and removed the folded cash still inside. $12 remained from the morning tips. I had $32 before lunch, she said. 20 went toward Linda's check. The restaurant owes her 57 cents in change, which I left in the tip cup because she had already gone. Gregory's gaze moved toward the shared tip cup. That does not prove what happened before the check closed. Then look at the register history. He tapped several buttons on the screen. The system showed the 2 declined card attempts, followed by a cash payment for the full amount. No void. No discount. No altered total. Simone watched his face, waiting for the suspicion to loosen. It did not. There could still be an issue with how the payment was handled, he said. Something colder than anger settled inside her. What issue? Gregory hesitated. Whether the customer understood that you were paying, whether there was any expectation attached to it, whether anything was represented differently to her. Simone blinked. I wrote that she owed me nothing. Where is that note? Linda took it. So we do not have it. Maya spoke immediately. I saw Simone writing it. Gregory rubbed one hand across his jaw. Maya, I appreciate that, but I need documentation. Simone looked toward the ceiling above the register. A small security camera pointed directly toward the service counter. Another covered the dining room entrance. There is your documentation. Gregory followed her gaze. The cameras do not record audio. They do not need audio. You will see her card fail. You will see me take cash from my apron. You will see me close the check. You will see me write the note and give it to her. Gregory's expression hardened again. Only the owner has access to archived footage. He is across town until this afternoon. Simone nodded once. Then call him. Gregory picked up the receipt. Until we verify everything, you are off. The register. Am I off my shift? No. You can work tables, but you do not handle payments. The words landed harder than Simone expected. Around them, nobody spoke. Maya looked furious on her behalf. Simone looked down at the black apron tied around her waist, then back at Gregory. You have the receipt. You have the register history. You have a witness. You have cameras. And you still decided I am the risk. Gregory opened his mouth, but Simone continued before he could answer. I paid for an older woman's lunch because she was embarrassed and needed help. Somehow, before you checked all the facts, that became a reason to question whether I could be trusted around money. Gregory's face changed slightly, but not enough. I am following procedure. Simone untied the small payment pouch from her apron and placed it carefully on the counter. Then follow all of it, she said. Check every record. Check every camera. Ask every person who saw us. She stepped away from the register exactly as he had ordered. But when you find the truth, do not call this a misunderstanding. Remember what you believed before you bothered to look. Simone returned to the dining room carrying a fresh pitcher of water, but the restaurant no longer felt like the same place. 10 minutes earlier, she had moved between tables without thinking about who might be watching. Now every glance seemed heavier. At table 7, a man lifted his credit card when she approached, then hesitated before handing it to her. Maya will take care of your payment, Simone said. The man looked confused. Did I do something wrong? No, sir. Not at all. Simone smiled, refilled his water, and walked away before embarrassment reached her face. Gregory had not sent her home, but being allowed to serve food while being forbidden to touch money felt less like ordinary procedure with every passing minute. Near the kitchen entrance, Maya caught her arm gently. You do not have to pretend this is fine. I am not pretending. You have that face. Simone raised an eyebrow. What face? The one where you get extra calm because you are actually furious. Despite herself, Simone smiled. I have 3 tables, and I can cover them for 5 minutes. Simone glanced toward Gregory. He was in the office speaking on the phone, probably trying to reach the owner, Thomas Reed. I am not leaving. I said 5 minutes, not forever. Maya handed her a glass of ice water. Go sit down before you start apologizing to customers for breathing. The employee break area was barely a room, just a narrow space behind the kitchen with 2 metal chairs, a small refrigerator, and a window facing the parking lot. Simone sat beneath the fluorescent light and untied her apron enough to loosen it around her waist. Her phone showed a reminder she had set that morning, electric bill Friday. She stared at it, thinking about the $20 she had given away. Strangely, she did not regret that money. Not even now. What hurt was that Gregory had looked at the same action and found something ugly inside it. Her phone buzzed. MOM flashed across the screen. Simone answered. Hey, Mama. You working? Denise Harris asked. Until 4. I was checking whether you wanted me to pick up anything for dinner. Simone looked through the small window at cars moving along the Charlotte Street beyond the parking lot. Whatever is cheap. Denise laughed softly. That narrows it down to cereal. Simone almost told her everything. She imagined her mother's silence, followed by the careful questions Denise always asked whenever Simone came home, carrying some unfairness she had tried to minimize. Instead, Simone said, Cereal sounds good. You all right? Simone hesitated. Long lunch rush. Then drink some water. Already doing it. After they hung up, Simone remained seated with the phone in her hand. Maya entered carrying Linda's original receipt. I made a copy before Gregory could lose it under something convenient. Simone looked up. Maya, what? I am organized. She placed the copy on the table. 2 declined attempts. 1 cash payment. $19.43. Nothing mysterious. You should go home, Maya said. Why? Because he embarrassed you in front of everybody. Simone folded the receipt once, then stopped herself and opened it again. If I leave angry, he gets to remember me. Leaving angry. Who cares what he remembers? I do. Simone stood. Not because I need his approval. Because I want the truth sitting right here when that camera gets opened. Maya studied her. You really think the footage will settle it? It will show what happened. And if he still finds another excuse? Simone considered that. Then I will know this was never about the receipt. A few minutes later, Gregory emerged from the office. Thomas is heading back. He should be here within an hour. Simone nodded. Good. Gregory seemed uncomfortable with how little she gave him. Simone, I am not accusing you of stealing. She looked directly at him. You asked whether I changed a check to create cash. You questioned whether I took advantage of a woman because she is deaf. Then you removed me from payments. Gregory's expression tightened. I said there were questions, and I answered them. We still need verification. Simone pointed gently toward the ceiling camera. Then verify it. She picked up her tray and returned to the dining room. Outside, afternoon sunlight reflected across the hospital windows several blocks away. Somewhere beyond those windows, Linda Bennett was already typing a message to her son about the young waitress who had paid for her lunch. Simone knew nothing about that message. All she knew was that the camera above the register had watched everything, and for the first time that afternoon, she was grateful that the truth had been watching too. By 2:15, the lunch rush had thinned enough for Simone to hear the wall clock above the kitchen doorway. Each second seemed louder than it should have been. She cleared table 11, stacked 2 coffee cups on her tray, and watched Gregory check his phone for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. Thomas Reed still had not arrived. Any update? Simone asked. Gregory slipped the phone into his pocket. He said he is about 20 minutes away. Simone nodded and turned toward the kitchen. That is all you have to say? Gregory asked. She stopped. What else would you like me to say? His expression tightened. You have barely spoken to me for an hour. I answered every question you asked. I am trying to handle this correctly. Simone looked at the camera above the register. Then check the camera when Thomas gets here. Gregory sighed. You keep saying that like it solves everything. It solves what happened. It might show movements. It cannot tell us what was communicated. Simone felt the frustration rise again, but she kept her voice level. Maya saw me pay. The register shows my cash payment. Linda took the note I wrote. You have already confirmed there was no discount, void, or change to the check. Gregory glanced toward the empty booths. I still have a responsibility to protect customers. So do I. Simone stepped closer, leaving several feet between them. That is why I did not make Linda stand at the register while strangers watched her card fail. That is why I wrote instead of speaking louder at her. That is why I told her she did not owe me anything. Gregory looked away first. I did not say helping her was wrong. You treated helping her like evidence that something else must have happened. For a moment, neither spoke. From the kitchen came the soft scrape of a spatula against the grill. Gregory finally said, "Until Thomas reviews the footage, the restriction stays." Simone nodded. "Then I will keep serving." At table 5, an older couple asked for pie. At table 8, a woman in blue scrubs requested coffee to go. Simone handled each request with the same care she had used all morning, but she could feel fatigue settling behind her eyes. Maya met her near the beverage station. "I can take table 8. I have it." "Simone, proving you are responsible does not require exhausting yourself." Simone poured coffee into a paper cup. "I am not proving anything to Gregory." "Then who?" Simone paused. "Maybe myself." Maya leaned against the counter. "You know you did nothing wrong." "I know." Simone fitted a lid onto the cup. "But I also know how easy it is for one bad assumption to become the story people remember." Maya's expression softened. "Then let the camera tell the boring version." Simone smiled faintly. "The boring version is my favorite version today." Her phone vibrated inside her apron. She checked it between tables and saw another message from her mother asking whether she needed a ride after work. Simone typed that she would take the bus. She still did not mention Gregory. Not yet. Across town, Linda Bennett sat in the back seat of a rideshare moving along King's Drive. Afternoon sunlight flashed between buildings as she unfolded Simone's handwritten note again. "No repayment. Just get home safely. Simone." Linda photographed it with her phone and opened a message thread labeled Daniel. "Something kind happened today," she typed. A response appeared less than a minute later. "Are you all right?" Linda smiled. Her son always began there. "I am fine. My card failed after my appointment. A young waitress paid for my lunch herself." Daniel replied, "Which restaurant?" Linda sent the name and added, "She did more than pay. She communicated with me instead of around me. She never made me feel helpless." Several seconds passed. Then Daniel wrote, "What is her name?" Linda looked at the note resting across her palm. "Simone." Back at Maple Street Grill, Simone was wiping table 14 when the front door opened. She glanced up, expecting Thomas. Instead, a customer entered and asked for a booth. Simone welcomed him and reached for a menu. Nothing had changed yet. The camera still waited above the register. Thomas was still somewhere in Charlotte traffic. Gregory still had his doubts. But beyond the restaurant walls, the woman everyone had discussed as if she could not speak for herself had already told the one person who needed to hear exactly what Simone had done. The rideshare turned onto Linda Bennett's quiet street just as her phone lit up again. Daniel had sent another message. Did the restaurant know what happened? Linda looked through the window at rows of trees moving past in the afternoon light. She did not know. Simone had never complained, never mentioned a manager, never suggested that paying for lunch might cause trouble. Linda typed, "I only know she helped me." "Why?" Daniel replied, "Because I want to thank her properly." Linda smiled and wrote, "Do not embarrass her." His answer came quickly, "I will try." At Maple Street Grill, Simone carried a plate of apple pie to table 5 and checked the clock again. Thomas was late. The delay should not have mattered, but every extra minute left Gregory's suspicion hanging over her like an unfinished sentence. Maya passed behind her and whispered, "Still nothing?" Simone shook her head. "Charlotte traffic. That man better arrive before dinner." Simone almost smiled. Near the register, Gregory was studying the transaction log again. He had checked it so many times that Simone wondered whether he was searching for a mistake or hoping to find one. Then the front door opened, and Thomas Reed hurried inside, carrying his laptop bag. He was 53, broad-shouldered, usually cheerful, but Gregory's phone call had clearly put him on alert. "Office," Thomas said. "Both of you?" Maya looked toward Simone. "Me too." Simone asked. Thomas nodded. "If you witnessed it, yes." The office barely fit 4 people comfortably. Thomas placed his laptop on the desk, while Gregory explained the transaction. Simone listened carefully. Gregory used words like irregular, concern, and verification. He did not say theft. He did not need to. When he finished, Thomas looked at Simone. "Your version?" Linda Bennett's card was declined twice. She offered to leave her information and return. I paid $19.43 from my own tips. Maya saw me take the cash from my apron. I wrote Linda a note saying she did not owe me anything. Thomas looked at Maya. Accurate. Yes. Thomas opened the security system. Then we check. Gregory folded his arms. Simone stood very still. The footage loaded slowly, gray numbers ticking across the corner of the screen. There was table 14. Linda sat with her phone in her hand. Simone approached, read the screen, and answered using the restaurant tablet. Thomas advanced the recording. The declined card attempts appeared in sequence with the register timestamps. Then the image showed Simone reaching into the inside pocket of her apron. She removed a folded bill, placed it beside the check, entered the payment, and carried the receipt back to Linda. There, Maya said. Thomas raised one finger, asking for silence. They watched Simone write on the order pad. Linda read the note, folded it carefully, and placed it inside her purse. The older woman smiled before leaving. Thomas stopped the video. No one spoke for several seconds. Simone had imagined this moment all afternoon. She had expected relief. Instead, she felt tired. Gregory cleared his throat. That confirms the cash came from Simone. Thomas turned toward him. It confirms considerably more than that. Gregory shifted his weight. I had to verify it. Verification is fine, Thomas said. Removing her from payments before reviewing available evidence is another question. Simone looked at Thomas. That is what I have been trying to explain. Thomas nodded slowly. I hear you. Gregory looked toward Simone. I did not intend to accuse you. She met his eyes. Intent does not change what happened. Before Gregory could answer, the restaurant phone rang outside the office. Maya stepped into the hallway and returned seconds later. Someone is asking for Simone. Gregory frowned. Who? Maya covered the receiver with her hand. A man named Daniel Bennett. Simone's eyes moved toward the empty table 14 visible through the office doorway. The last name registered immediately. She took the phone. This is Simone. A calm male voice answered. Hello, Simone. My name is Daniel Bennett. Linda Bennett is my mother. Simone straightened. Is she all right? There was a brief pause, then warmth entered his voice. She is fine. In fact, she has spent the last hour making sure I understand exactly how well you treated her today. Simone looked at Gregory, then Thomas. I only helped with lunch. My mother says you did something more important than that. She says you gave her dignity when she was already having a difficult day. Simone swallowed. Daniel continued. I work nearby. Would it be all right if I stopped in? Simone glanced at the security footage still frozen on the laptop screen, her own hand visible, holding the small handwritten note. Yes, she said. I will be here. After the call ended, Simone returned the receiver to Maya. Gregory asked, Who is he? Simone shook her head. Linda's son. That was all she knew. Across the street, sunlight flashed against passing cars while the afternoon moved quietly forward. The truth had already cleared Simone's name. What none of them understood yet was that Linda's message was about to force the restaurant to confront something larger than a $19 check. Daniel Bennett arrived 20 minutes later, when the restaurant had settled into the quiet space between lunch and dinner. Simone was resetting table 9 when the front door opened and a tall man in a charcoal suit stepped inside. He appeared to be in his mid-40s, his hospital identification badge still clipped near his jacket pocket. He scanned the dining room once, then approached the host's stand. I am looking for Simone Harris. Simone heard her name and turned. I am Simone. Daniel's expression softened immediately. Daniel Bennett. Linda is my mother. Simone set down the silverware in her hand. How is she? Home. Comfortable, and apparently determined to make sure I hear every detail of her afternoon. A small smile crossed Simone's face. I'm glad she got home safely. Daniel took out his phone. She asked me to show you something. On the screen was a photograph of the handwritten note Simone had given Linda. Beneath it was Linda's message to her son. She spoke with me, not around me. Please remember that part. Simone read the words silently. Something tightened in her throat. Your mother did not need anyone speaking for her, she said. She just needed another way to communicate. Exactly. Daniel looked toward Gregory and Thomas, who had emerged from the office. Are you the manager? Gregory stepped forward. Yes. Gregory Walsh. Thomas introduced himself as the owner. Daniel shook both men's hands, then said, I am Dr. Daniel Bennett. I am a hospital director nearby, but I am not here in that capacity first. I am here as Linda Bennett's son. Gregory's posture changed almost imperceptibly. Simone noticed it. So did Maya. Daniel continued. My mother told me her card failed. Simone paid for her meal, and Simone made sure she was not embarrassed because she communicates differently from most customers. Thomas nodded. We just reviewed the security footage. It confirms Simone's account. Daniel glanced at Simone. There was a question about her account? Silence settled around the host's stand. Gregory answered carefully. There was an unusual transaction. I needed to verify how it was handled. That sounds reasonable, Daniel said. Gregory seemed relieved until Daniel added, what happened while you were verifying it? Simone remained quiet. This answer belonged to Gregory. He looked at Thomas, then back at Daniel. I temporarily removed Simone from handling payments. Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. Was there evidence she had taken money? No. Evidence she changed the check? No. Did anyone witness the transaction? Gregory hesitated. Maya raised her hand slightly. I did. Daniel looked back at Gregory. Then what made Simone the risk? Gregory did not answer. The question hung in the air longer than any accusation could have. Thomas opened the laptop on the nearest empty table. You should see the footage. They gathered around the screen. Simone had already watched it once, but seeing it beside Linda's son felt different. There she was approaching table 14. There was Linda typing on her phone. There were the declined card attempts. Then Simone reached into her apron and removed the $20 bill. The video showed her paying, returning to the table, writing the note, and waiting while Linda read it. Daniel leaned closer when his mother folded the paper and placed it carefully inside her purse. She kept it, Simone said softly. It is on her kitchen table right now, Daniel replied. Thomas paused the footage. The register records matched this exactly. No altered total. No void. No discount. Daniel nodded, but his attention remained on the frozen image of Simone and Linda sitting across from each other. Then the evidence is clear. Gregory rubbed his palms together. It is. Simone, I am sorry this became such a situation. Simone looked at him. The apology sounded neat, almost efficient, as though the afternoon had simply become complicated on its own. Daniel seemed to hear the same thing. May I ask something? He said. Gregory nodded. If the footage had not existed, what would you have believed? Gregory's face went still. Simone felt the room change. Until that moment, the camera had been treated as the ending. Proof had arrived. Her name was cleared. Everyone could move on. But Daniel's question exposed what the video could not answer. Gregory looked at Simone, and for the first time all afternoon, there was no register screen, receipt, or procedure for him to hide behind. I do not know, he admitted. Simone held his gaze. I do, she said quietly. That is why this cannot end with the camera. Gregory looked at the frozen security image for several seconds before closing the laptop halfway. The movement was slow, almost careful, as if shutting the screen could not erase what it had already shown. I was trying to protect the restaurant, he said. Simone had expected those words. She had heard versions of them before, explanations built around responsibility, caution, policy, anything that made unfair treatment sound accidental. Protecting the restaurant was not the problem, she said. Then what was? Gregory asked. Simone glanced toward the register where the afternoon had begun. You had questions. That was fair. But you treated your questions like answers before you checked the facts. Gregory's mouth tightened. I never called you dishonest. You did not have to. Simone kept her voice steady. You had the register history. Maya told you what she saw. I explained where the money came from. There was a camera above us. You still decided I should not touch another customer's payment. Thomas remained beside the table, listening without interrupting. Daniel stood a few feet away, his phone lowered at his side. This was no longer his conversation to lead. Gregory looked toward Maya. I should have given her statement more weight. And mine, Simone said. Gregory met her eyes. And yours. The restaurant seemed unusually quiet. Even the kitchen sounds had softened between shifts. Gregory rubbed his thumb along the edge of the receipt. I made an assumption before I had evidence. Simone waited. Gregory continued, more slowly now. I treated you as if you had done something wrong before I established that anything wrong had happened. That was unfair. Simone felt. Something inside her loosened, though not completely. That is the apology I needed to hear. Gregory nodded. I am sorry, Simone. She did not rush to make him comfortable. She did not say it was fine, because it had not been fine. Thank you for saying it clearly, she replied. Thomas pulled out a chair and sat down. We also need to make sure this does not become one apology and then disappear tomorrow. Daniel looked toward him. My mother would agree with that. Thomas asked, what would you suggest? Daniel considered the question. At the hospital, we have accessibility staff who train employees on communication with deaf and hard-of-hearing patients. Restaurants face different situations, but the principle is similar. Do not assume that difficulty hearing means difficulty understanding. Give people options to communicate. Gregory glanced toward the tablet Simone had used with Linda. We have that technology already. Simone answered. Having it is not the same as knowing how to use it respectfully. Daniel nodded. Exactly. Thomas leaned forward. Would your team be willing to help us build something practical? I can ask them, but I would want deaf people involved directly. My mother included, if she wants to participate. Simone smiled slightly. She probably will. Daniel laughed. You have already figured her out. Thomas looked at Simone. Would you be willing to take part too? Simone blinked. Me? You handled the situation better than our existing process did. She considered the offer carefully. She did not want the afternoon turned into a performance where everyone praised her kindness and avoided discussing why kindness had been treated with suspicion. I will participate, she said. If this is about changing how customers are treated, not making me the example of a perfect employee. Thomas nodded. Fair. And Linda should have a voice in it, Simone added. People should not design communication rules for deaf customers without listening to deaf customers. Daniel smiled. My mother is going to like you even more. Gregory looked down at the receipt in his hand. I would like to participate too. Maya raised an eyebrow. In the training? Yes. Gregory looked at Simone. Especially in the training. Simone studied him for a moment. There was no dramatic transformation in his face, no sudden warmth that erased the afternoon. What she saw instead was discomfort, and perhaps the beginning of understanding why that discomfort mattered. That felt more believable. Daniel's phone vibrated. He looked at the screen and smiled. Speaking of my mother. He turned the phone toward Simone. Linda had sent a photograph of Simone's handwritten note resting beside a cup of tea on her kitchen table. Beneath the photograph she had typed, "Tell Simone I kept it." Simone stared at the message, then smiled. The $20 she had worried about that morning was gone. The suspicion had hurt more than she expected. The apology could not return the hour she had spent proving a kindness was innocent. But something larger had begun moving through the space that mistake had opened. Simone looked toward Gregory. Tomorrow, I go back on the register? Gregory answered without hesitation. Today, if you want. Simone tied the payment pouch back onto her apron. Good. She walked toward the counter, where the receipt printer waited beneath the camera. This time Gregory followed, not to watch her hands, but to listen. 3 weeks later, the small stand beside the register at Maple Street Grill held something that had not been there before. A neat stack of communication cards offered simple written choices for customers who preferred not to communicate verbally, and a small sign invited guests to request a tablet or written service at any time. Simone noticed the cards every morning when she tied on her apron. They were not dramatic. Most customers passed them without a second glance. That was exactly why she liked them. Change did not always arrive with applause. Sometimes it looked like a laminated card waiting quietly beside a receipt printer. The restaurant had completed its first accessibility session with staff from the nearby hospital, and Linda had participated through a combination of signing, typed responses, and an interpreter. She had insisted that the training focus on dignity rather than pity. Do not decide what someone needs before asking them. She had typed for the group. Gregory had written the sentence down. Simone had noticed. He had changed in smaller ways since that afternoon. He asked more questions before drawing conclusions. When employees explained unusual transactions, he listened before reaching for policy language. He still managed schedules too tightly and complained when the coffee inventory was wrong. But Simone had never needed him to become a different person overnight. She needed him to understand what he had done and choose differently when the next moment came. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, that moment arrived quietly. An older man approached the counter and pointed toward one of the communication cards. Gregory was closest. Instead of raising his voice or immediately calling Simone, he placed the card on the counter, turned it toward the customer, and waited. The man pointed to the written option requesting pen and paper. Gregory handed him both, then stood patiently while he wrote. Simone watched from several feet away. Gregory glanced toward her once. She gave him a small nod and returned to filling 2 glasses of iced tea. Nothing else needed to be said. The following Tuesday, Linda returned for lunch. Simone recognized her the moment she entered wearing the same pale blue coat. Linda spotted Simone and smiled broadly. Simone brought her to table 14 without asking whether she wanted somewhere different. Linda laughed silently when she realized where they were sitting. Simone placed the tablet between them and typed, "Good to see you again." Linda typed back, "I came prepared this time." She opened her purse and held up 2 credit cards. Simone covered her mouth to keep from laughing too loudly. Linda added, "And cash." Simone typed, "Now you are showing off." Linda's shoulders shook with laughter. She ordered the same soup, half a turkey sandwich, and hot tea. Halfway through lunch, Daniel stopped by in hospital clothes rather than a suit. He greeted his mother, then Simone. "She has been talking about this lunch for 3 days," he said. Linda immediately typed something and turned her phone toward him. Daniel read it and laughed. Correction. She has been planning it for 3 days. When Linda finished eating, she placed a card beside the check. Simone ran at once. Approved. She returned carrying the receipt and set it down with exaggerated seriousness. Linda looked at the approval line, then at Simone, and raised both hands in celebration. Simone laughed. Before leaving, Linda slipped a folded piece of paper across the table. Simone opened it after she was gone. "Kindness should never require proof, but I am grateful yours survived being questioned." Simone stood still for a moment, holding the note beneath the warm afternoon light. She folded it carefully and placed it inside her apron. Near closing time, Thomas brought a small wooden box to the counter. The staff had agreed to create an emergency meal fund, supported voluntarily by employees and customers, for situations where someone could not immediately pay. No public announcements. No photographs. No names displayed on a wall. Just help when help was needed. Simone counted her tips after her shift. She separated $20, remembered the electric bill, the textbook, and the afternoon when $20 had felt like both very little and very much. Then she slipped the bill through the narrow opening in the wooden box. Gregory was wiping the counter nearby. He saw her do it, but said nothing. Simone gathered her coat and walked toward the door. Behind her, the restaurant lights reflected softly across the polished tables. The camera still watched the register. The communication cards waited beside it. Linda's note rested safely in Simone's pocket. Outside, rain had stopped, leaving the Charlotte pavement bright beneath the streetlights. Simone stepped into the cool evening and headed toward her bus stop while, behind the glass, Gregory placed the wooden box neatly beside the register. No one applauded. No one needed to. The kindness that had once been treated as suspicious now had a place to remain, waiting quietly for the next person who needed it.